All right, good afternoon, or good morning. It's not afternoon, but good morning, and happy to have you here with me. Go ahead and get your questions put on there, and we'll get them answered. So we'll start here with Ed B. And typically, what I'll do is I'll start with questions that were asked within the last hour when I start. So if there's another question, I'll go on to that one. If not, I'll kind of go back to Jim and maybe Marlon's question as well. So we'll start with Ed B. Posted his question 6 minutes ago. So Ed B says, "Is it necessary to open the club face for chipping? How open is open?" So it's not necessary, but it's definitely something you can do, and there are some benefits to it. So say you're using a wedge with some bounce on it. If you're wanting to add some loft to it, get the ball to go up in the air a little bit more, you can open the face, because opening the face adds loft. And really, the amount that you open it is really up to you. It depends on how much loft you want to have. The other thing that opening the face does is it can expose what's called the bounce here on the bottom. So as you can see here on the bottom of this wedge, there's this little flange here. And basically what this does, if you open up the face, it makes this exposed more to the ground. So basically when you come in and you hit the ground, it'll glide a little bit more on the turf. So it'll keep the club from digging into the turf a little bit. So it can help you in that regard as well. So it's not 100% something that you have to do. A lot of times you're chipping with an 8-iron or a 5-iron, or there's all kinds of clubs that you can chip with from around the green. And those clubs just don't have a lot of bounce on them. So opening the face probably isn't going to do you any good. It might add a little bit of loft. But really, if you're looking to add a little bit of loft, I would just use a higher lofted club. Whereas if you're using a wedge, you probably don't have higher lofted clubs than your wedges. Your highest lofted club might be a 56 degree or a 60 degree. And if you want to add a little bit more loft, you can open up the face. And those wedges, they have this bounce on there because it makes it easier to, for one, for the club to glide through the turf. And two, the main reason is for out of the sand, to get that club to glide through the sand and not dig into the sand. So it has some benefits for hitting off of the turf to allow it to kind of glide on top of there instead of digging into it. So yeah, there are some benefits. How open you open it is completely up to you. It depends on how much loft you want, how much bounce you want to expose. You may have a different amount of bounce on your wedge. You may have a lot of bounce on your wedge, and you don't really need to open it at all to get the bounce more exposed. You may not have much bounce at all on your wedge, and in order to get that bounce more exposed and to be able to use it, you may need to open up the face quite a bit. So it really just depends on your equipment as well. All right, so Mark T asks, can you discuss what part of the foot your weight should be on at each phase of the swing? So that's a good question. So basically in the backswing, let me angle this out. And it can be a little bit different with everybody. These aren't hard and fast rules or anything like that, but this is in general. And if you actually want to learn more about the pressure points that are going into the ground, Swing Catalyst, I believe their website is swingcatalyst.com, and I'll talk to you so that my head isn't cut off here. Swing Catalyst, they make a mat that has thousands of sensors in it, and basically it measures the pressure that you put into it with your feet. And basically a lot of the pressure graphs, so what you would call them, a lot of the ones that I've seen, I'll describe here in a minute as far as really good players and things like that. But if you want to learn more about that, they actually have some great free education on their website, and you can go learn more about this pressure being put into the ground and at what points in the swing and how much pressure here and there. But I'll briefly describe, typically what you'll see in better players with the foot, the pressure that they're putting into the ground with their feet. So initially what's going on is in the backswing, you'll see a little bit go toward the toe. So right in the beginning, you're going to have a little bit in the toes, more in the balls of your feet as you're going back. And then as you're going up to the top, this pressure is building up here in this foot. And so basically you're about 50-50 at address, and you're pretty much in the arches of your feet. Some people will be a little bit more on their toes, a little bit more on their heels. That's completely fine. But mostly in the arches of your feet, in the middle. And then it's about 50-50 distribution. Could be what they found in tour players. They found a lot of tour players were a little bit more pressure on their lead side. And I think that's just to get momentum moving to their trail side. Not something you really need to worry about, but just a little bit of information there. And then basically as they go up to the top of the swing, you're going to see it move a little bit more toward the balls of the feet. And then as they're going all the way up to the top, getting to the very top, and I won't go up to the top here because I got this glass thing here, but essentially that starts to move to the heel. And then in the downswing, so they're going to have about 75, 80% of the pressure, total pressure in their feet is going to be in this trail foot. And then in the downswing, that pressure starts to get transferring to this lead foot. And again, it usually starts a little bit more in the balls of the feet. And then as they're coming down, it moves to the heel as you're coming through. Now you're going to see some tour players, it doesn't move a ton to the heel. It may just move more to the arch of their feet. But typically what you're going to see is that's moving toward the heel at contact and then all the way through in the full finish. And just to go back to contact, about 75, 80% of the pressure is going to be in that lead foot at contact. And then as you come all the way around to the full finish, you're going to have pretty much all your weight, 90% roughly of the pressure that you're putting into the ground is going to be into your, basically your heel here. You'll have some in the outside of your foot, but in the heel and outside of the foot. So that's basically throughout the phase of the swing where the pressure is in your feet. Now, this isn't something typically that you need to go out and work on making sure you're getting these certain pressures in your feet. It usually just comes from doing the right things in the swing, like having a stable fluid spine, getting a good shoulder turn, having your compression line good, releasing the club out in front, having good lag. Really, usually if you do all those things in the Top Speed Golf system pretty well, automatically you're going to have these good pressures. But you may find, if you're really in your toes all the way throughout the backswing, that's a product of kind of coming up out of your posture, because in order to be in your toes, that's from like leaning forward and coming backward like this. So you want to feel like you have a good flex in your legs. You're nice and balanced as you're going up to the top, and you're able to rotate in the backswing. So good question, Mark. And we'll go on to the next question here. So Cameron F says, S that suggests changing your grip to S that suggests changing your grip to hits, chips, and pitches to either run out or pop the ball up. It seems like this would complicate everything. Should I forget the tip? I think you're missing the first part of your question, Cameron. Can you get the whole question on there? I'm not quite understanding exactly I think you're missing the first part of it. So go ahead and put the whole part in there, and we'll come back to it. So you'll probably just want to paste it or copy and paste it back in there, and then have the whole question in there so I can see everything. So HRL says, hi, I'm new here. May I which program for us to follow? May I which program for us to follow? My handicap 8 after less than 4 years of golf. So I think you're asking what program you should follow. So it's really, and then he goes on to ask, the reason why I asked the question is that there are so many and I do not know how to select a program to follow. So that's a great question. And basically what it comes down to, when everyone signs up for the membership, we like them to go through the 20-minute distance fix, because literally everyone can benefit from more distance. Even the long hitters on tour can benefit from more distance. Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, everyone's going to benefit from hitting the ball further. So we recommend that you go in, you get a quick win, work through that 20-minute distance fix. It's really one of the number one correlations that they found to lowering your handicap is getting more distance. So we recommend that you start out in that 3-week program. Stick with that 3-week program, the 20-minute distance fix, to find that course. You've probably seen all the courses, but basically click that house icon. That'll take you to the homepage. And if you scroll down on that homepage, you'll find all the Top Speed Golf System course progress. You'll see that at the top, and then you'll see all the courses below that. Choose the 20-minute distance fix. It's one of the ones at the top. Choose that and start working through the drills there. Start with that quick start program. Work through there, learn about the neural adaptation stuff, and then get into the week 1 stuff. after that. So that's what I'd recommend. And then after that, just start working through the Tuskegee Golf system. So stable fluid spine, power turn, which you have already done in the 20-minute distance fix. We'll have done some of that, but in the Tuskegee Golf system, you'll be ingraining that motion and making it second nature so that you get a big power turn and you don't even have to think about it. And then, you'll work your way through the system. Now, if you want to know exactly, we set up this website for it to be sort of self-guided. Everyone, that comes to the website should be able to benefit from some distance. So that's why we tell people to go there. But it may be possible that you already have a good stable fluid spine, and maybe you just need to work on your lag or something like that. And what I'd recommend doing is kind of watch all the videos, or not all the videos, but get an understanding of what the Tuskegee Golf system is and what the most important things are. So stable fluid spine, being angled away at address, stable to the top, more angled away into impact. Clay actually just released a new video yesterday where he basically just talks about his swing the whole time, and he goes over the Tuskegee Golf system in that video. So that would be really a good kind of quick tutorial. It's about a 17-minute video. That would be faster than watching all of the videos in the Tuskegee Golf system. So just watching that video in of itself will give you an idea of what the most important pieces of the swing are. And you can kind of look at your swing on video and see if you're seeing these same type of things, or if you're way off compared to what the positions and stuff that Clay has in his swing. So that's what I would recommend looking at, and then maybe go to that piece. So maybe you'll see your spine is good, and you're getting a good shoulder turn now, and it's second nature to you. If all that feels really good after going through the 20-minute distance fix course, and then you see, oh man, you're casting the club. So you went through the 20-minute distance fix course, and you had a hard time with the lag and couldn't quite get it. Well, you may need to work on generating some lag in the downswing so you can get more speed, and also so you can sequence properly and all those things. So that's what I would recommend doing. If you'd like someone to take a look at your swing and tell you, hey, this is exactly what you need to work on, because maybe you're doing a lot of things in the Tuskegee Golf system, but maybe you're swinging way over the top and hitting big slices or things like that. So we would maybe just want to kind of work on some slice drills, getting rid of that initially, and then work on some basic technique stuff like in the Tuskegee Golf system. So if you'd like an instructor to look at your swing, we do offer unlimited swing reviews. I do have some spots open right now. If you go to the instruction, or not the instruction tab, if you click the house icon or the get a review at the top of the page there, that'll take you to the sales page. Above this video, there's a little link that says learn more. That'll take you to the swing review page where you can learn about how an instructor can look at your swing and advise you exactly what you need to work on and work with you step by step along the way to make sure you're on the right track. All right. So Cameron F says, I saw a tip that suggested that changing your grip from weak to strong can help with chips and pitches by either running the ball out with a strong grip to popping the ball up with a weak grip. Seems too complicated. Should I forget this? I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if you find it too complicated and it's not for you, then don't do it. That's completely fine. But basically what they're doing with a strong grip is that they're de-lofting the face a little bit more. That's probably what they're feeling like they're doing. So if you think about, if you have a strong grip and I'm chipping, if I have a strong grip, meaning I'm turning my grip like this, I'm turning my lead hand like that. So that's a stronger grip. So that's going to be, I'm going to have more forward shaft lean. And if I'm chipping, that's going to allow me to have more forward shaft lean, and that's going to get the ball running because I have less loft on it. If I have more of a weak grip, that's going to put me in a club position where I'm kind of straight up and down like this. This is going to be more of a pop-up. I would generally just like to have more forward shaft lean, and if you need more loft, just use more loft. I generally like to steer a little bit toward more of a neutral to strongish grip, somewhere in there. Not a big fan of weak grip, but that doesn't mean that you can't play great golf with a weak grip. A lot of people can. If you struggle with getting that club face too close all the time. It might be beneficial for you to use a weaker grip as long as you're getting forward shaft lean, but most people aren't. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a tip to forget, but I agree that it's not necessary. You can chip with whatever kind of grip that you want, but I can see how they might say using a stronger grip because it's going to get you more forward shaft lean with those chips. It's going to be easier to keep the hands, the force in front of the mass, which is going to allow you to have more stable impact. So, but with I would just tend not to want to chip with a weaker grip because then you have to make manipulations in the swing in order to get to get forward shaft lean. Whereas if you are using a stronger grip, you don't really have to do any kind of manipulation. It's just kind of like back and through, keep the hands in front, get some forward shaft lean, good compression on the ball. So Eli B says, I have a fade. I'm a fader. I play the fade. Why change this? Handicap 10. You don't have to change. You don't have to change anything. I will tell you that better players can do all of it. They can hit fades. They can hit draws. They can hit straight shots. So if you want to kind of take your game to the next level, I would learn how to hit fades and draws and straight shots so that you're not always, because let's say that you play a fade and you have out of bounds to the left. Well, if you always play a fade, you actually kind of have to aim the ball toward the out of bounds initially and just hope that it kind of comes back. That's treading on dangerous water right there. I would much rather hit a draw in that situation and start the ball away from the trouble and then work it back, as opposed to starting the ball at the trouble and working it away. So doesn't mean if it's reliable and you can do it every single time, then that's no problem. But I think with most people, especially those who hit a fade, they hit a lot of pulls too. And that pull is going to go out of bounds or in the water if there's trouble over there in those situations. So if you get to where you can really be able to work your ball flight, because we all get off a little bit, right? So maybe you hit a fade and then some days your fade kind of turns into a slice. Well, you want to be able to have the ability to make the adjustment, and that adjustment may be to feel like you're hitting more of a straight shot, or maybe even to feel like you're hitting more of a draw to get that ball to straighten out a little bit. And these are the things that we do in the ball striking masterclass. Not sure if you're familiar with that program, but it's a program that we offer. We offer enrollment into it every few months, every couple months or so. We just took on a bunch of students in there, so we probably won't be offering it again for another month or so. But in that program, we work on being able to hit draws and fades and things like that. But you don't have to wait to enroll into the program. We have lots of videos on the website for hitting draws and working on your ball flight and some stuff like that. So if you're looking for any videos on hitting draws, you're wanting to learn how to hit draws, go to the search window at the top there. You'll see it says search this website in the upper right hand corner. Just search the word draw and you'll find tons of videos to help you draw. Basically, what needs to happen to hit a draw is your club face just needs to be close to your club path. What that means is my club face, so if my target is the wall over here, this is a square club face, all right? So in order for the ball to draw, I need my path of my club to be in to out and my face to be closed to that path. And that will help the ball start pretty straight and then draw to the left. So that's how you hit a draw in all of those videos. Any draw video is going to be helping you to accomplish that. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Like I said, you can play. I know a lot of guys that they only can hit a fade. That's all they can do. But they have some inconsistency issues because maybe they have a situation where if they hit a fade, they're going to hit trees or something like that. And it would be way more beneficial if they knew how to hit a draw. Where if they hit a fade and they pull it on accident, it goes OB or in the water or something like that. Where if they would have just been able to hit a draw, they could have avoided all of that and lowered their scores. All right, so go ahead and post your questions on here, and we'll get them answered. I got another 40 minutes on here, so go ahead and post your questions. Just a quick note for tomorrow. I am going out of town tomorrow afternoon, so instead of having the office hours in the afternoon, we are going to have it in the morning tomorrow. So 9 a.m., same time as the Tuesday and Wednesday office hours. We're moving it from 3 p.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then Friday's office hours will be canceled because I will be out of town, and the other instructors are busy and aren't able to fill in for me. So sorry for the inconvenience on Friday, but I'm going out of town that day and won't be able to do it from where I am. So keep that in mind moving forward. But regular schedule will resume on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time in the afternoon. I am flying back on Monday, so assuming I don't have any flight delays or anything like that, I should be back in plenty of time to do the office hours. So go ahead and get your questions on here, and we'll get them answered. In the meantime, I might go to a question that was posted maybe well before we got started. So Jim H. Was on here yesterday afternoon and asked, hit the ball but have short follow through, any drills? So with a short follow through, almost always what I see, it's an issue of either one, not getting a proper weight shift and getting to their lead side, or two, a combination of keeping that trail heel on the ground throughout the swing and not allowing it to come up and come all the way through to a full finish. So if we don't get a weight shift, a proper weight shift in the downswing, if we're coming through like that, we're not getting to our lead side. Remember what I talked about earlier in the beginning of the office hours is that we want the pressure that we're putting into the ground to be about 75-80% in that lead foot at contact. Well, if you're not getting a proper weight shift to your lead side and you're kind of hanging back, and that's actually where most of your weight is on, or most of the pressure is on your trail foot here, you're going to have a hard time kind of finishing your swing because you're going to be finishing kind of like that. So we need to make sure that we're getting to our lead side, and that's going to make it a lot easier to come all the way around into a nice full finish position. So there's a great drill on the website. It's actually it's in several videos on the website, but one that's really, really good is it would be the sumo step drill and the 20-minute distance fix. It's in the week 1 material. So if you go at the top of the screen there, instruction tab, let that expand. It's the first option there. Choose the 20-minute distance fix and go to week 1 and work on that sumo step drill. And that's going to help you. It's going to force you to get to your lead side, because what you're doing in that drill is you're swinging and you're taking a step forward. So that's forcing you to get your momentum going that way. And then you'll do that in a practice swing where you're kind of replicating those same feelings. And then once you get comfortable with that, then you'll put the ball down. The other thing is this trail foot. So what I see with a lot of people, sure, they'll get a good weight shift, but they won't allow this trail foot to come off the ground. So if you watch my trail foot here, they won't allow this trail foot to come all the way up and get on the toes. So you need to make sure to free up this foot, allow it to come off the ground. Feel like your hips are pulling it off the ground. I tell a lot of people this, and then they do this in the swing. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you want to get the body rotating and let the hip pull your heel off the ground instead of keeping it planted, and come all the way around up on your toes just like that. When you're coming through into the full finish, we should be able to see all the spikes on the bottom of your shoe there in the full finish position. All right. So let's go up to the top here, see if we got any new questions. All right, yeah, we got a couple. All right, so John L. says, what is your standard warm-up routine before teeing off? Does it change if you show up only with 10 minutes before I tee off? Pretty much it does. In general, I try to show up. Basically, I want to hit a couple wedge shots, a couple pitch shots, a couple, full work up to kind of a full wedge shot. So that might be 10 balls right there if I can go to the range and hit some shots. And then I'll hit kind of a mid iron, and then I might hit a hybrid, a 3-wood, and then 5 or 6 balls with my driver. So at most, I'm maybe hitting 30 balls to start with. And again, that probably takes 15 minutes maybe, just kind of going through that. And that just helps me get loose and get going there. And obviously, before I hit balls on the range, I'll kind of do some twists and touch my toes and kind of try to get my legs moving a little bit. And then as I'm swinging and going through my range session, I'm swinging and getting everything loosened up a little bit more. So then after that, I'll just go to the putting green and and I'll just roll some putts just to get a feel for how fast the greens are, and just kind of get a good feel for my stroke to start with. So what I'll do is I'll take a couple balls and I'll just find a dead straight putt that's about 8 feet, and I'll just try to roll a few of those, and then I might try to roll a few long ones just to get a feel for lag putting. And again, this is all taking at most probably 20, 25 minutes. Now, I might, if I have some time, I might go and hit some chip shots. But in general, I usually don't do that unless I just have a ton of time to work with. Now, if I only have about 10 minutes, probably not going to go to the range. I'm probably just going to go straight to the green and get some putts in, and then I'm just going to try and get loose, take some practice swings off to the side, do some trunk twists, bend down, touch my toes, maybe do some squats, just kind of get the legs moving a little bit, get those muscles activated, and then just do some practice swings. Might do some practice swings where I really swing hard, try to get get a little bit of a decent pump going, get a good feeling for that, and then at that point, you just try to get your body warmed up so that you don't feel so stiff on that first shot. So that's what I would recommend doing. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have any time for any of that, I mean, you're just going straight to the tee. I just try to get loose as much as you can for that first shot, and then go from there. So David W says, I miss many really short putts. Do you have any drills or thoughts on how to stop this? So yeah, mainly is what I see with most people when they're missing short putts is they're kind of standing up and looking, because the hole is right there. So they want to kind of stand up and look at it. So I would just really focus on looking down and watching the ball leave the area that you're putting it from, and really focus on not looking up at all until you hear the putt go in the hole. That would be my best suggestion. Would be to work on that, because most of the time what I see is people that with the short putts, they'll get down here and then they'll do that because the hole is just right there. So they'll see it kind of out of the corner of their eye, and they'll pop up and watch that, and that kind of makes the stroke, the face can close a little bit or open a little bit when you do that. So that's one thing. The other thing is I would make sure that your alignment is good. So I'd find a dead straight putt and make sure, because that's been a big issue of mine, is a lot of times when I am putting, I actually aim left on accident, and I miss a lot of putts left because that's just kind of what my eyes see. So I really have to work hard on getting my alignment correct and make sure that I'm actually putting in the direction that I feel like I am. So that's what I'd recommend doing as well is, get a chalk line that can work. Pop that chalk line on there and put a couple on the ground, find a dead straight putt, and make sure that you can that'll help you kind of visualize the tunnel that you're basically trying to putt the ball through. You can put some alignment sticks on the ground. You can put 2 tees out in front, kind of acting as a gate for the ball to go through to kind of help you with that alignment. And just doing more of that, and the more that you do that, the more your eyes are going to realize what straight actually is, and that's going to help out quite a bit. So that's what I'd recommend doing. I actually use a laser as well. I don't know. Here it is. So basically, one thing that I use instead of a chalk line, I have this little cigar tin. And basically what I do is this has a little magnet on it. And I set this behind the golf ball between the hole. I've tried to find a dead straight putt, and it's got a laser on it. I don't know if you can see this. Is it not working? I must have left the batteries on or left it on or something because it's not turning on. But basically, it's a laser level. So I set this on the ground behind the golf ball, and it's a laser level. So it basically puts a dead straight line on the ground. And sometimes it's a little hard to see if it's bright outside, but I'll use this, and it's just an easy way to see a dead straight putt all the way there. And it really helps with my alignment. So alignment is one thing that you may be having an issue with. You can also use one of these putting mirrors. I have one in here. So you can get these from anywhere, but it's Eyeline Golf is where this one's from. And basically what you do is you can set this on the ground, find a dead straight putt, and set it on the ground and try to align this line here with the hole. You can just get behind it with your putter and just try to line it up. And then that's going to help you with your alignment as well. You put that ball right in here and you just putt it from there. And I would just hit, many putts from there, just trying to get a feeling of what where straight actually is. And that can help out quite a bit as well. So David W. goes on to say, though I am a good lag putter and make many 8 to 10 footers, I miss a lot of short putts. So no worries on the duplication, David. Yeah, so I would look at your alignment on those, make sure those are good. A lot of times that shorter stroke can be difficult for some people. So I would just try to feel like, it's not nice fluid movement. A lot of people will kind of get the yips on those shorter ones because it's such a short stroke. So just try to feel like it might be a slower stroke, but it still have a nice fluid movement there. But big time, what I see with people with shorter putts, the biggest thing is that they kind of stand up out of it. So maybe look at your swing, your putt on camera, your putting stroke on camera with those short putts, see what's going on there. It's hard for me to know without kind of working with you and seeing exactly, but that's typically what I see with the short putts. So everybody, we got about 30 more minutes left. Go ahead and ask your questions. If you just got on here, I just want to mention tomorrow office hours will be 9 a.m. Instead of 3 p.m. I'm going out of town in the afternoon. And for that reason, there won't be any office hours on Friday. And then Monday will resume as normal, assuming that I don't have any delays in my flight. I should be back in time to do the 3 p.m. Eastern office hours on Monday. So just a heads up there. Also, I do have some unlimited swing review spots available. So if you'd like to work on your game and you're not really sure what's going on or things like that, David, if you're not really sure what's going on with your putting, we can take a look at that and work one-on-one together to get that worked out and things like that. So go ahead and get your questions posted on here, and I will get them answered. Until then, I'll be kind of just checking my emails here. So yeah, go ahead and get your questions posted on there, and then we'll get them answered. So Michael G here. Let me get back to my screen. There we go. So Michael G says, "Hi Q, is it a good idea to use whiff balls during practice to cure the urge to strike the ball rather than through the ball?" Yeah, wiffle balls are fine. The only thing I don't really like about wiffle balls is that they don't sit down in the grass because they're so lightweight. They don't sit down in the grass as well. So they kind of just sit on top of the grass. So that's the only thing I don't really like about them. And then the other thing is that they just really don't react like a normal golf ball would. There is another one that I like. They're called almost golf balls. And I think there's several. Basically, it's just a foam golf ball. It looks a lot like a normal golf ball. It will fly just like a golf ball would, although it won't go near as far. They do go quite a bit they will go some distance though. So if you have a smallish backyard, then the wiffle balls are probably the way to go. And they also don't break like the wiffle balls do. So nothing wrong with using wiffle balls to practice with. That's completely fine. But like I said, the biggest issue that I have with them is that they just kind of sit on, if you're hitting them off of grass, they just sit on top of the grass. So it's not real, sometimes it's not really like hitting a golf ball. So be aware of that whenever you're working with that. So Robert Yu says, season is coming to a close here in Toronto. Do you think the indoor simulators are beneficial for practice? Are the spin numbers good feedback and trustworthy? So yeah, I think that simulators are great for practice. I mean, it's way better than doing nothing for sure. Now, I do think that they're fun as well. I always have fun hitting on simulators and things like that. But the thing to understand is that it's a simulator. They're going to make mistakes. You're going to hit some shots that were like, whoa, I don't think that that's at all what happened. And you see something funny happen on the screen. So as far as the spin numbers are concerned, personally hitting the spin numbers indoors, they can be good feedback in a sense. To see with the driver, I would say it's usually pretty good feedback. But with the irons, you're typically always going to have more spin indoors because when you're hitting off of a mat, there's no grass, there's no moisture, there's nothing getting in between your face and the ball, which really, really affects spin a lot. So if you have any debris on the face or moisture, that ball's going to slip on the face some, and you're not going to get as much spin. Whereas that never happens off of a mat. You're always going to, if you're indoors in a mat, it's always going to be dry, clean. You're always going to have that pretty clean contact. Even if you hit behind the ball 2 inches, your club is going to still go through the mat and sweep into the ball, and you're going to have normal spin numbers. So keep that in mind whenever you're working on stuff like that. Wedges, I mean, you can spin wedges like crazy off of a mat. So I would say that those spin numbers are not going to be very translatable to the real world situations, because typically when you're hitting a wedge, you're going to get something in between your face and the ball, and it's going to lower the spin. So you can't really expect to be able to get the same really high spin numbers with some of your clubs that you do with the irons. Now, as far as spin numbers with your driver, now with the driver hitting it in the real world, you shouldn't be hitting the ground or anything. So there shouldn't be any moisture getting on the face or debris or anything like that. So that you should get pretty similar numbers. The one thing I will say about hitting indoors as well is you typically have lower club head speed. I think it's a subconscious thing. You don't feel like you can swing as freely because you're kind of indoors. So it doesn't happen with everyone. Excuse me, but it does happen with some people. So something to keep in mind there. And not all simulators are created equal. There are some that are a lot better and more accurate than others. So keep that in mind as well. It really just depends on what you're using. But with all simulators, hitting off of a mat, a very clean mat where you can actually hit behind the ball and it won't really make much of a difference, is going to be different than hitting off of a real turf, especially with the spin numbers. But really, I would just look at it as going to a simulator. It's just a good way to keep your swing more intact throughout the off season, so that there's not so much of a coming back period when you get back into it. And especially in Toronto, I imagine the golf season isn't really long. You want to be playing your best golf right when the season starts, so that there's no getting back into it period. So I think the simulators are great, definitely in that regard. I think it's fun. It's definitely a fun, I think, as well. So Stephen N says, Q, is there an advantage to hitting down and taking a divot versus sweeping none divot swing? I can do either one and don't know I should practice one over the other. I'm not seeing a noticeable difference. So there's actually a big advantage. That really depends on the club. Typically for your upper irons, your hybrids, your 3-woods, your woods, your fairway woods, and things like that, sweeping the turf is going to be a pretty good idea with those because it's going to allow you to get the ball up in the air better because it's coming in shallower. You're going to be able to get some spin on those shots as well, which is going to help you to hold the greens on those shots. So generally, not taking a divot there and more sweeping the turf is a good idea. Now, with your lower irons, your mid to lower irons, your wedges and things like that, in general, you want to be taking a divot because that's going to allow you to be more consistent and get that ball first contact. Because if you're coming in and sweeping the turf, that means that your club is coming in very, very level with the turf. So when that happens, that's going to make the ball go higher, and you're also going to hit the ball lower on the face, which is going to add more spin. So you're not going to hit the ball quite as solid on those on those higher clubs. So I would actually recommend making sure that you're hitting down and getting a nice divot on those. And it's also typically, if you are sweeping the club, that means that you are releasing the club early. And that's going to also add loft to the club face. And if you're not seeing any noticeable difference in your distances, so maybe that might not be happening to you. But hitting down on the ball a little bit with those clubs is going to allow you to have a little bit more control, because it's going to give you a lower ball flight. It's going to allow you to get that ball first contact more consistently with those clubs and hit those clubs more consistent. So, but typically when people aren't taking divots, it's because they're releasing the club early. So that's flipping, that's hitting the ball low on the face, a lot of thin shots and things like that. And it doesn't sound like that's what you're doing if you're not seeing any difference in distance between the two. You may be getting forward shaft lean and sweeping, and also getting forward shaft lean and hitting down on it. But it's hard to say without seeing your swing. But just based on the information that you've given, I would try to be taking a divot with those wedges, especially, and lower irons and mid irons for sure. So David C says, I've been told to hold my finish with a putt. Should club face be closed or square to the line at that point? So the club face is actually going to be closed. In order to have that club face square to your target as you're coming through, you would have to kind of manipulate the face open through contact. And I don't really recommend doing that. I recommend with putting, try to keep the hands really, really quiet and just let the club kind of work around your body. And if you do that, it's going to be slightly closed as you're coming, as you're in that held finish area with the putter. So Robert Yu says, I do want to work with you, but have a unique hand injury. I'd like to send you personally pictures and info to get your feedback on the situation prior to committing to a long-term coach, just like to communicate privately. I mean, I don't really know what there really isn't a way to do that without signing up for the swing reviews. So, I mean, if you sign up for the swing reviews and you decide that there's not not something that we can work together on after going through that, then, I'll give you a refund as long as we don't do any reviews or anything like that. But yeah, so feel free to sign up. And if you had, I'll send you an email basically when you sign up for the swing reviews, and we can talk about that. But really, as far as a hand, I mean, I don't know I will tell you right now, I don't have any expertise in working with someone with a hand injury. I'm going to teach you basically the same concepts that anyone else would get for the most part. And we'll just try to work around, whatever your physical capabilities are from there. But I imagine you're going to be hard pressed finding an instructor that has any experience working with like specific hand injuries or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, if you give me a little bit more feedback on what exactly would be different for you, I'd be happy to help. But yeah, you'll need to sign up for the swing reviews in order to get any personal feedback from me. So Kyle R says, the videos I've watched in the short game section so far are always in good grass. The courses here in Florida aren't always perfect, and lies can be dirt, pine straw, or wet lies. Did Clay ever do bad lie videos? So basically, the techniques are going to be mostly the same. We do have like a hard pan chipping video, which would be, I consider that to be a bad lie. But really, as long as you're making ball first contact, these lies aren't going to make very much of a difference. It's more about getting that ball first contact first. Now, if you're working on trying to use the balance and letting the club slide on the turf a little bit, then you won't be able to do that on certain lies, because if the ball, if the club is kind of grabbed by the lie or anything like that, it can be an issue. So I would say if you're hitting off of a dirt or something like that, it's going to be pretty similar to a bunker shot. You just hit a little bit closer to the golf ball. So you'll open the face, let the club kind of glide through the turf. You'll kind of try to hit behind it just a little bit, like a couple inches, and that will get the ball out there. Those are tough shots, but they're hit very similar to what a bunker shot would be. You just open up the face a little bit less and hit behind the ball, or hit a little bit closer to the golf ball. That's basically the only difference there. Pine straw, really just need to make sure that you get ball first contact. Again, that's going to be similar to what kind of like a face, and you can hit it similarly to what a bunker shot would be too on those. But in general, if you're getting ball first contact, you're going to be fine hitting out of those. Wet lies, you hit exactly the same. It's just with a wet lie, if you hit the ground before the golf ball at all, that moisture is going to get on the face, and you're not going to be able to get as much spin. So understand that the spin might be a little bit unpredictable because you don't know how much moisture is going to be on that face. But it's possible that you hit the ball and the ball will roll out quite a bit and not have a lot of spin on it. And it could be possible that you kind of nip it nicely, not get a lot of moisture on the face, and then you'll have plenty of spin on it. So those are definitely tougher shots that you're going to end up. There's going to be a little bit of an element of unpredictability there, for sure. So, but yeah, the technique's going to be mostly the same. So Robert Hughes says, sounds good. Thanks, Q. No problem. Yeah, so we got about another 14 or 15 minutes on here. Go ahead and post your questions, and we'll get them answered. And if you're just joining me, just to reiterate, and sorry for all the people that have heard this a couple times already, but if you're just joining me, just to kind of fill up the time here, I will be gone tomorrow afternoon. So the office hours are moved to tomorrow morning. So instead of 3 p.m. in the afternoon, will be 9 a.m. in the morning tomorrow. And then I'll be out of town on Friday, so no office hours on Friday. Office hours will resume normal hours on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, assuming you don't have any flight delays or anything like that. I should be back in plenty of time. So Robert W. says, stable fluid spine, level 1.4. According to the physically capable test, my right hip can only turn 45 degrees. Clay said he likes to see 60 degrees. Should I turn out my right foot 15 degrees to make up for that shortfall? Is that too much? No, that's exactly what you should do. So if you're talking about turning in the backswing, and this is why I see with a lot of people, especially people who come to the distance clinics, so they'll be setting up to the golf ball pretty much like this. So feet are completely very, very square. And when this happens, it's difficult to get a freedom of motion here. It's hard to get as much hip turn as I like to get. I actually have terrible internal rotation. I can't turn my leg hardly at all in like that. So I really have to, when I set up to the golf ball, I really set up with my feet open quite a bit. And that allows me to really be able to turn my hips. Because in the backswing, if I want to get more hip turn, I can just lift up my trail heel and get that. And then in the follow through, I'm rolling up on my foot. So that's completely fine. I'm not going to have any external rotation issues there. So yeah, setting up with your feet completely with open like this, you can do as much as 45 degrees. You can really open up your feet that much. I find that if you open up your feet more than that, you might end up with kind of some balance issues. You might be having a hard time. But if you open up your feet about 45 degrees, that would be about the max, and you'll still be able to get that maximum range of motion there. So yeah, absolutely. Opening up that trail foot can help you to open up things quite a bit. So Stephen N says, Q, should you have a different thought or swing for a wedge versus, woods? For the most part, no. Naturally, I think you're going to be set up to the golf ball a little bit different, but your thought process really isn't any different. You want to hit the ball in the center of the face. You want to hit the ball first before the ground. You want to hit it with a square club face, and you want to hit it with you want to be on plane and hitting it with a neutral club path if you're trying to hit a straight shot. So for the most part, it's really no different. Now, the feeling might be different because you're hitting down on the ball a little bit more with a wedge. So your average tour player is going to hit down on a wedge probably 6, 7 degrees. And just to give you an idea of how much that is, 1 minute on the clock, if you're looking at an analog clock, 1 minute is 6 degrees. So it's still pretty shallow, but it's still down on the ball to ensure that ball first contact. So a lot of tour players are doing a lot more than that, but that's generally what you see on average is that 6 7 degrees down on the wedges. And that allows them to get that ball first contact. Now with a wood, you're going to see 2, 3 degrees down. It's going to be a lot more shallow coming into the golf ball, not as much of a difference. But that happens fairly naturally because, one, the arc of the club's a lot longer. So the arc is wider. So you're going to get a shallower angle of attack. You're typically playing those clubs a little bit further up in your stance than you would a wedge. Typically, a wedge is about the middle of your stance, and a wood is probably a few balls forward of that. Several inches, 4 or 5 inches ahead of where that is. So that's going to allow you to come in more shallow to it. You're typically also going to be a little bit more angled away with a wood, which allows you to. But all these things, they seem to happen naturally. It's not really something that you have to think about. It just happens by the nature of being further away from the golf ball, the club being longer, playing the ball a little bit further up in your stance. You're basically taking the same swing. It's just with a different club, essentially. So James H, sorry, my nose is really itchy today. So James H says, does opening the face on a mid iron help with getting through the grass? It can, because you're not exposing the leading edge as much. But I would just make sure that you're getting ball first contact and you're not having to get through the grass before the golf ball. So some things that you can do to help with that is maybe just put the ball a little bit back in your stance to promote a little bit steeper angle of attack, get that a little bit more ball first contact. But really getting ball first contact, that's really what you want to do. Opening the face, that's gonna lead to some inconsistencies and things like that. So get that ball first contact, and that will help out quite a bit more. So Kyle R says, I watched the divot reading video. Question about my 58-degree wedge from about 100, where it seems to be square at impact, but after 1 or 2 inches gets toe deep by about an inch too steep. So it sounds like you're kind of chopping down into the golf ball with your wedge. Now, with wedges, you can hit down on the golf ball a little bit more. That's going to give you more spin, lower launch, more spin though. It could make things a little bit more easier to control. But you can experiment with getting a little bit shallower of a divot and see if that helps you with your contact a little bit. So basically what you want to do is you want to come down and kind of take that top layer of turf right off there, almost like you're a razor blade. Like you're surgically kind of taking that club and like a razor blade and taking that top layer of turf off. Now, like I said, it can be a little bit more of that turf with a wedge because you are hitting down on it a little bit more typically. But if you want to work on, see if that can help you. It's hard for me to know exactly what's going on without being there with you and seeing exactly what's going on. But if you are actually coming down too steep and chopping down into the golf ball, I would recommend working on trying to get that a little bit more shallow. So when you are hitting your wedge shots, I would try to feel like your hands are kind of pulling up as you're coming through. So that comes from really using your legs to push your hip back and up. And that's going to help you to push the shoulder back and up. And that's going to help you to get the hands moving up. When the hands move up and the club moves down, what happens is it shallows this out a little bit at the bottom of the swing arc. So it comes in a little bit more. It's coming down, and then you hit the ball. Then it comes through a little bit more level, and then it comes up. So that's from this action. So the club moving up, the handle moving up while the club is moving down. And that comes from using the legs to really push into the ground and feel like you're pulling that elbow or pulling that shoulder up. So it's that motion right there. You watch my shoulder, how my shoulder kind of moves up. See how it's moving up as I'm coming through there? That's the feeling that you want to have when you're working on that to help that club glide through the turf a little bit better. All right, so we got about 5 more minutes here, so go ahead and post your questions on here. And again, office hours tomorrow will be at 9 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. No office hours on Friday if you're just joining us. Got about 5 more minutes, so go ahead and post them on there. In the meantime, I'll be checking my email here. All right, so Janice G says, can you discuss changes necessary to create a draw? Sure. So basically, all that needs to happen to hit a draw is your face just needs to be closed to the club path. So your club face needs to be closed to your club path. So typically, to make that happen, you'll come in with a fairly square club face and a club path that's in to out. So that will help you get the face closed to the club path. So typically, what I do, and there's lots of ways to do this, but I think the easiest way to do it is to set up with your stance a little bit more closed. So that's dropping the trail foot back. So dropping this trail foot back. So if this was square, I would drop this trail foot back to help me to swing more from the inside, swing more into out. And then I would also strengthen my grip a little bit. So this would be kind of my normal, strongest to neutralist grip. And I would just kind of make that a little bit stronger so that I can have the club face square to the target at address, but that's going to help me to get this club path working more into out. The last thing I'll do is I'll move the ball back in my stance just a little bit. So a ball or two, and that helps me to get this club working from the inside more to help promote that into out path. So that's basically what I do, and I just swing. I try to swing into out with my club face square to the target, and that's done by closing my face. But there's all kinds of ways that you can do it. There's people that they'll set up to the golf ball the same way, and they'll manipulate their path to swing in out with a square club face to get the ball, to get the face close to the path. There's people that will just change their stance only and feel like they're rolling the hands over a little bit more to get it close to the path. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do it, but I find the easiest way is just to strengthen your grip a little bit. So get the club face a little bit closed, more closed than it normally would be in relationship to your hands. Put the ball in your back in your stance just a little bit, and then close your stance a little bit, and that will help you to swing more from in to out. Now, some people will do that, and they'll hit big old snap hooks. So you just need to do it the amount that allows you to get that nice draw. So Robert Yu here says, excuse me, I'm playing with 3-year-old Titleist irons and a bit older wedges. What is a good indicator of when to get new clubs? If the grooves are getting a bit beaten up, but Clay suggests that there is a role is mainly to channel water, grass away from the face contact. I'm also wondering if a player's iron as opposed to a game improvement iron is a consideration. I'm a 3-year member of TSG and have improved a lot. So these questions would be more for a expert club fitter. That's something that I am not, but I will say that I just got new irons like this year, and I didn't have any intention of getting new irons. Me and Clay went to Ping, and I had an opportunity to hit their clubs, and I liked them, and I got a whole new set of them. And really, I just did it because I wanted to get new clubs. I didn't really need new clubs. These clubs, I've had these clubs. This is actually my old irons, Titleist set. These are the first set of AP2s that had ever come out. They've come out with several versions since then. So these are probably, see, I got these in college. So I think these are about 12 years old, I would say, and are fantastic, great irons, really, really great irons. I actually have the same shafts in my new clubs as I do in these 12-year-old shafts. So you can see there's definitely some scratches and things like here. Those can make a difference for sure. And as you said, Clay mentioned how the channels or the grooves are meant to kind of channel away moisture and debris and things like that. So I've seen clubs where the grooves are worn all the way down, and that can be an issue for a spin. It's going to be tough to get spin when you do that. So if you do have that situation, it might be time for new clubs, or it might be time to get those clubs grooved a little bit. But if your irons are 3 years old, you're probably fine. I mean, I can't imagine your 3-year-old irons are any more beat up than my 12-year-old ones. And I played a lot of golf with these, so yeah. I mean, I odds are you probably wouldn't benefit that much from new clubs. You probably wouldn't see much difference at all. Now, as opposed to a player's iron versus a game improvement iron, a game improvement iron, what those basically are is they're typically more bulky, so they're bigger, and they usually have the center of gravity lower on the club, which allows you to get the ball up in the air a little bit more easily. So if you're someone who struggles hitting with the center of the face, and you're someone who struggles getting the ball up in the air, a game improvement might be better for you. What you would call a player's iron, that would be kind of like your mid irons. I'm not sure if I would even consider this a player's iron. I mean, there are a lot of tour players that play AP2 irons, but this is what you would consider. There's definitely a cavity back on here for sure, and it's a very forgiving club. But if you don't hit the ball in the center of the face very much, and if you struggle to get the ball up in the air, this may not be the best kind of club for you. But really, those are just things you have to go to an expert club fitter to get worked out. Hit different clubs. Bring your old clubs in and see if there's a difference between their clubs and your clubs. And if there's a huge difference there, then heck yeah, get some new irons, man. That would be great. But if there's not, you can get new irons, but I wouldn't expect it to make a difference in your game. It's probably going to be a new. I will tell you that I do hit these irons, my new irons, longer, and really the main reason is because they have stronger lofts on them. They're about 1.5 to 2 degrees stronger. That can be almost a half a club longer. I actually hit them longer, more than a half a club longer. But yeah, I mean, I just like the way the new ones feel. It's always nice to get new clubs, new grips, and all that good stuff. So, I don't have anything against somebody getting new clubs, but what I don't want people to feel like is going to get new clubs. It's going to drop their handicap by 5 strokes. It doesn't work that way. Typically, you really don't see any difference in your handicap typically. So unless it's just a huge jump, like you're playing 30-year-old clubs, you're just playing 3-year-old clubs. So I just can't imagine there's going to be much of a difference there. So Stephen N., this will be the last question of the game. We're past 10 o'clock here Eastern time. So Stephen N. says, can wedges be regrooved and where? So yeah, wedges can be regrooved. I just take it to a club fitter. Club Champion, if you have one in your area, any club fitter in your area, just Google club fitters near me. And you can do that now. They do have groovers out there that can help you they won't be able to do magic like a club fitter would be able to actually get you some really good grooves on there. But they do have these tools that you can use to kind of get in there and really clean that out really, really good. You can get those on Amazon probably for like $10 or something like that. So last question here, Robert. So Robert asks AP1 versus AP2. AP1 is going to be more, from what I understand, and again, I'm not an expert on Titleist clubs or anything like that, but an AP1 is going to be, I don't believe it's forged, so it's going to have a little bit of a different feel to it, and also they're going to be a little bit of a bulkier iron, so you're going to get, they're going to be more forgiving, but you're going to get some shots that if you're hitting it in the center of the face, often you're going to get some balls that just launch and go way over. Whereas with an AP2, you're probably going to get a little bit more consistency with them. If you're hitting it in the center of the face fairly often, that'd be a good one to have. They're going to be a little bit easier to work the ball with. If you're saying like a player's iron, it's kind of toward that realm just a little bit, but it's still a very forgiving iron. And really, you just got to go hit them, see what works the best for you. I don't know if an AP1 or an AP2 is what would be better for you. I will be honest with you. I could probably go out and play around with AP1s and AP2s, and there would be zero to little difference in my score. Most likely, it's just you get used to the equipment that you have, you adjust to it, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that we're adaptable. We're going to adapt to the equipment that we have, and you might go in and get your clubs bent to 1 degree upright or whatever. Well, you're going to need to learn how to swing the club with the club being 1 degree upright versus what you did before. So it's really club fitting. It's really, I don't know. Sometimes it's a crapshoot. Sometimes it can make a big difference, but most of the time it really doesn't make that much of a difference as long as you have some solid equipment that isn't way off. You're going to be able to play pretty good golf with it. So thanks everybody for joining me today. I'll be back here tomorrow again. Tomorrow's office hours will be 9 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. and no office hours on Friday. Office hours resume as normally on Monday. So everybody have a good rest of the day, and I will talk to you next time.